And now to our first conversation on Commodity Market Update. Nigeria attracted $4.2 billion in foreign remittances in the first quarter of 2021. And this shows that the amount of dollar inflow sent through the banking system by Nigerians living in diaspora fell by 24% when compared to $5.6 billion reported in the same period last year, which was actually the pandemic year. Also, the Central Bank of Nigeria has been paying a lot of attention to this. We have Nosike Nwajidin, our research analyst with Financial Derivatives Company, to break this down for us. Good morning. Great to have you on the program.
Good morning. Always my pleasure.
Yeah. So this 24% drop year on year, especially having the base year as the out of the pandemic year, should remittances be going? Shouldn't remittances be going up at this point?
Well, it's neither here nor there. There's obviously the effect of the pandemic last year.
Right.
Then there's the Delta variant now, where we thought that by this time the economies will be the engines of economies will be pumping on full stream. But the variant means that especially the hospitality industry, it's constrained at the moment. People cannot come out and sit outside like they ordinarily would. Restaurants, hotels, businesses, just people moving outside. I mean, that's the major constraint to the global economy. And even the U.S. Fed is now coming out to say, okay, we might keep our extraordinary monetary policy a lot longer than we initially thought, given that the Delta variant has sort of distorted all our projections for economic growth and even global growth at this point, because the US is a major engine of global growth. So that you have the pandemic on one hand, then you have the Nigerian economy here with the uncertainty and the lack of confidence with the Nigerian forex policy. I mean, there was the Naira for dollar policy where you get...
There is still the Naira for dollar.
It's still there, right?
Yes.
Where you get 5 Naira for every dollar you bring in. But
right.
Nigerians overseas are a bit skeptical about the restrictions to inflows and outflows, and many of them have resorted to using black market means for bringing in
Like what other means?
I
hear there's a cryptocurrency too.
People are heavy on crypto, and at some point,
that's why the CBN would not rest.
The CBN clamp down on crypto. A lot of Nigerians are heavy on crypto, and there's the ease of transaction with crypto. As soon as you send, you receive. You go to an exchange, you sell. CBN clamp down on these exchanges, but there's the peer-to-peer transfer that people now do. So it's not an exchange anymore. You just send to me, I send to whoever wants to buy at that point.
Basically out of the system.
Out of the system.
So are you saying that it would have been better if because the CBN is also mindful that some of these platforms could be abused, and people could lose their money, people could become victim of fraud and things like that.
Yes.
So that's why...
Yes. The lack of regulation on those platforms means that
another major issue.
There's increased susceptibility to fraud and all the things that you mentioned. But people want the ease of transaction. People want to be able to send their money without the CBN saying, okay, you can't, if you transfer, you cannot pull out cash, you must transfer from that account. Or if you put in cash, you must pull out cash. Those little things, it's just inconvenient for a lot of people. So the ease of transaction, especially with cryptocurrency, you send, the speed, the ease, everything is just smooth sailing. So a lot of inflows go via cryptocurrency.
But
and this
the Naira to dollar policy should actually be attractive. I mean, if somebody has promised you, you're going to get more money.
More Naira for you.
Yeah, I mean, if you officially, the official exchange rate is about 411, 413. The black market rate at this point is at 532 Naira. So that gap, 122 Naira, is substantial. It is significant, and I don't know anyone who would disregard that amount of spread. So it's not, I don't know what policy. People want transparency. People want to know, not just remittance flows now, but investors want to know that is there a clear-cut path towards exchange rate convergence. I mean, if you devalued the currency, or took away the official rate, the old official rate at 389 or 397, took it to 413. But the black market rates, which were expected to converge towards the IFX, has actually depreciated. So it's not clear. It's as if, okay, look, this moves reek of desperation. There's not enough supply, and obviously demand far outstrips supply. So I mean, we feel that the black market rate will depreciate some more. So it makes sense to hold on to your foreign exchange or find unofficial means where you avoid the official rate and you get a black market rate which is higher.
Okay, looking at some of these management strategies that the CBN has used, how would you quantify the impact?
Especially the one they did, not supplying to bureau
BDCs. Yeah.
At the moment, well, the market still perceives there's a huge perception of supply constraints. I mean, there was the SDR inflow that we got, but then again, there's been huge, big ticket items that the government has needed a lot of foreign exchange for. There's huge capital projects. There's the revamping of the refineries, which costs billions of dollars. The federal government will need to make down payments as much as 10, maybe 15%. So as the SDR inflows are coming in, huge chunk of that is going out to pay down payments on these huge capital projects. So it's not having the expected impact, the impact that we thought, okay, look, reserves are rising, but we should have, if reserves are rising, it means that if the CBN has enough ammunition to support the currency with. But we're seeing it gradually move from 520, 525, 530, and we're at 532 as at yesterday. So at the moment, the market perception is that, look, there's simply not enough supply.
I guess, as a lot of people have said, the issue here is a revenue issue. It's creating more avenues to have the forex and not just playing around with what is available. They're trying to control
demand at the moment. Nigerians need foreign exchange the manufacturers need it for their raw materials. Nigerians, even as much as 60% of every item you consume has import factor. So that is huge. I mean, if you cannot import, if there's a slight change, slight volatility of the currency, prices go up. It's because of that 60% import content on the basic items we consume. So at the moment, if there's a way you could shift demand to domestic items rather than the foreign components, then you would you have ease off on currency pressures. But at the moment, this is a more mid to long term solution. At the moment, these currency pressures are likely to persist.
Well, when can we see some, because right now, I don't know if you can see, in the foreseeable future that, the Naira would actually strengthen,
Looking at the way,
what can actually, strengthen the Naira at this point?
In the black market, in the medium term, there's a Eurobond issuances that we have as much as 6 billion will be coming in. If there's a huge backlog of demand waiting to be met. If the CBN meets that, if we see some accretion external reserves, meaning that oil prices and production remain, high, favorably high, then we can see that then supply bottlenecks basically at the banks and bank branches where CBN, okay, you can't use BDCs anymore, so people have to go to banks. There's a lot of regulation, and it's really bureaucratic. The amount of documentation you need to obtain forex, that's why people just ordinarily go to a BDC. So that is going to continue to weigh on what forex supply. People consider this as a huge constraint. They will always be seeking the black market rate, black market sources of forex. But in terms of increasing the supply, oil prices will support it. A euro bond issuance will support it. Improving terms of trade with higher oil prices will also support it. If you look at the trade reports, we saw that Nigeria still exports cocoa beans as opposed to other countries where they sell these cocoa beans to the Netherlands that process it, cocoa powder and cocoa paste,
and then we now buy the imported and the processed one
from the cocoa value chain than the.
I just wonder why.
These are narrative that we need to look into to increase forex supply. I mean, if you get self-sufficiency in agriculture, if you can reduce, let's say, lower the amount of food that you import, increase the amount that you actually produce, and then at some point to get to self-sufficiency and stop importing food, then think about exports. As long as these are mid to long term.
We know what to do, but
Nosike, let's just be real for just a moment. Why does this seem so difficult for us? We have the human resources, we have the natural resources, we have the brains. Why does it seem so difficult for us to process this thing when we know this is the solution to a lot of problems? The problem of ethics, the problem of employment, the problem of insecurity. Why does it seem so difficult?
The resource curse.
The incentive system is flawed. if there's a very high cost of production in Nigeria, it makes more sense for some people, it makes more business sense, in economic sense, to import than to produce. It's cheaper to import. It's cheaper, and there's so many bottlenecks, from the ports to the risk of your farms. I mean, the high cost of production, high cost of shipping your or not shipping, transporting your items from the areas, from your farms to your factories or to the market. Those costs add up. It's cheaper to ship some of these things from other countries to the Lagos port. So as long as that cost is lower, people will just gravitate towards the lower cost. It's that simple. So you need to, these incentives need to be given to businessmen. So if you have, say, 24 hours power supply, if you have a rail system that goes from your port to up north where the food producing belt of the country is, all little things like this will lower cost and give incentive to businessmen who will invest, and they see an opportunity, they invest, and they stand to profit from it. And these things will lower cost in the future and lower the demand for FX, and then you can see the Naira strengthening. It's a more medium to long term.
Okay, but I think you should just take us through the commodities market.
Yeah, let's see what's happening there.
Overall, it's a harvest season where we should see prices generally trend lower, but these prices have been sticky.
Has the harvest season started, or it's starting in October?
It's September. Depends on it varies from commodity to commodity, really. But September is when, like for cocoa, September is when it starts. This huge, the excessive rainfall. We've seen rains for, I think, for the past 5 days.
Yeah.
And that's for a commodity like cocoa. Say there's something called the black pod disease, and it thrives under excessive rainfall, and this is a huge risk at the moment. And cocoa seeds also need to be dried, and excessive rainfall and the fact that the cloud cover the past 5 days, there's been no sunshine, so we stand to lose a substantial amount of cocoa if the excessive rainfalls continue. That's for cocoa. For commodities in general, we've seen the price of, apart from the price of garri, trended lower, price of tomato, and price of yam, the new yam around this season. All the other prices have been static or trended higher. Trended higher because importing these commodities, there's a weaker exchange rate to import these commodities where they are produced in the country. Still the insecurity in the food producing parts of the country, and that adds to the premium that we pay for commodities. So these are just
all right. Thank you so much, Nosike Wajide, research analyst at Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you so much for your time.
Always my pleasure.
All right, we'll move on to another conversation right after the break. Do stay with us. This is Business One.